Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
For the hard luck man, left his mind in the mountains of Afghanistan. Light a candle for the hard luck man.
Well, hello and welcome to Season 6, Episode 4 of the Bluegrass Brooklyn podcast. I'm your co-host, Liz Wolfe.
And I'm Mike Wilner. And I want to welcome you back, Liz, from your vacation, trip, adventure. Great to have you back.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Thank you. It is great to be back, although I will miss the pasta. So today's interview is with a great local musician, but also an emerging artist at Gray Fox. His name's J.M. Clifford. And he was not only a part of this interview, but also he showed up at Jam Jersey and he's shown up to a few jams out in Brooklyn. So we're excited to have had him on. So what do you got going on, Mike?
Okay, so first things first, as we've mentioned, we are the Gray Fox podcast in residence this year. One of the things we're doing is collecting people's Gray Fox experiences under the Tell Your Gray Fox Story initiative. So check the program notes and click the link there to set up some time when you're up there and share your Gray Fox stories with us there. If you're not going to Gray Fox, definitely reach out to us and we will set up separate time to collect your story. And also, one of the big annual events here in New York City, the Porch Stomp Folk Festival, is taking place on Saturday, June 20th, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Governor's Island. 20 stages, all different kinds of music. And not only will Bluegrass Brooklyn have a stage where 12 bands, all drawn from the jam circles around Brooklyn, will be performing, but yours truly will be performing with the South Brooklyn Stompers at the Swamp in the City stage, playing an hour of Cajun dance music. That's at 12:30.
And also during the Porch Stomp Festival, there are two jams that I know of. One is sponsored by Trevor and Conchi, my jamming buddies, the Hudson Family Bluegrass Jam, which is happening in Fort J from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I know Sonny's has a jam later in the afternoon as well.
Yeah, that's right. There's going to be a lot of jamming, a lot of good music, so come on by.
But unfortunately, I'm going to be missing Porch Stomp. Why am I going to be missing it? Because I'm going to be out in Colorado at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival.
Yeah.
And I actually am going to be gone for almost a week. The festival, of course, is Wednesday to Sunday. I have a friend who lives out there. Never been there, no idea what to expect. I just can't wait to get out to Colorado and play bluegrass with some folks that I've never met before.
And before we get started, please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, Brooklyn spelled BKLYN. You can visit bluegrassbrooklyn.com, drop a line, Mike at bluegrassbrooklyn.com, especially if you want to schedule a Gray Fox story if you're not going to be up there. And if you would like to find a jam in Uptown Manhattan, Bronx, Riverdale, New Jersey, and increasingly around the world, check out bluegrassjamsnearme.com. So, Liz, anything else?
No, let's get to the episode.
Okay, let's roll.
Hard luck man. Light a candle for the hard luck man.
So here we are with J.M. Clifford, Brooklyn-based singer, songwriter, musician, and man of many talents. First of all, thanks for joining.
What a pleasure, Mike. I'm a big fan of the show. I listen to the show regularly, and I think it's one of the most informative podcasts out there for the kind of stuff that I'm into.
Wow, you've made my day, that's for sure. Also, full disclosure, JM has been an occasional musician at our local Bluegrass by the Bridge jam here in the Deep South of Brooklyn in Bay Ridge.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great jam.
We got a lot to talk about, Jam, but let's start off here. Let's get this out of the way. Can you give us a concise musical origin story? How did music become such an integral part of your life?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember actually, I was in fourth grade and it was like the elementary and middle school band concert, and some kid was sitting at a drum set. And I didn't play an instrument yet, but I saw this kid playing drums and I was like, I must, I must. And I became
Wow.
obsessed with percussion. And also at the same time obsessed with Guns N' Roses and Metallica. Like fourth, fifth grade, I started discovering really hard rock drums. And that was like my gateway into the whole thing. So for a long time, it was drums, it was like hard rock and metal, and then guitars, pianos, songwriting started to mellow out. I had a roommate who said, listen, this is Robert Johnson, this is Ella Fitzgerald, and it kind of
Right.
he kind of reset my hard drive. But hey, I majored in music in college, and then I started teaching music, and I couldn't imagine a life without it.
Oh, me either. Just to contextualize, because I'm a little older than you,
Mm.
my obsessions at that early age were Eric Clapton and Cream, and
Yes.
I switched on Bach. If you haven't heard that one, that was on the original Moog synthesizers, which were the size of a truck. And it took 20 minutes to record a minute of music or something like that. But it was,
You had to plug something in from here to there, right across the, yeah.
I definitely identify with getting started with music in one's life and then growing into your current focus, which
Yeah.
is bluegrass music and Americana country and stuff like that. So, are you a singer songwriter or a songwriting singer?
I think I'm a songwriter who sings. And I say that because, well, I think my primary strength is my songwriting, and I think it's my primary obsession. It's really what drives me and what fascinates me. And I feel like singing is just a vehicle for me to make sure that I can get the ideas in my songs across. So the song is the primary thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you settled on guitar. What other instruments do you play, if any?
Yeah, besides my rock and roll drums, it turns out, turns out I never really like got introduced to a metronome. So I think I was a lot better at drums in my head than I was in reality. But I think guitar, so around 2017, that's when I got the bluegrass bug, and someone, pointed me in the direction of Michael Daves, who's folks who listen to this podcast, I'm sure know who he is for the most part. But when it comes to New York and bluegrass, he's the guy. I mean, I walked to my lessons from my apartment to his house for a couple of years. And that training really changed my life in a lot of ways. Before that, I was, James Taylor, Van Morrison, Bob Dylan. I would do a lot of finger picking and things like that. Once I got introduced to Michael and flat picking, it reinvigorated and changed the way that I write and, of course, the way that I play, and brought my songwriting into a kind of a different chapter.
Right. Yeah, Michael Daves is amazing. And as far as musical education is concerned, possibly one of the greats, if
Yeah.
not. But let's talk a little bit about musical education. You are a musical educator.
I started teaching for the New York City Department of Education in 2003 at the tender age of 22, coming right out of school. I thought I knew what I was doing, and boy, oh boy, did I not. I was teaching second grade, and I remember I came home for Thanksgiving, and my parents looked at me and said, "What happened to you?" I'd lost 30 or 40 pounds. I had no idea what I was getting into. I got my butt kicked, and it was such a heavy learning curve. But eventually, teaching first grade, second grade, something that I fell in love with doing. I love teaching early literacy. But about 10 years into my career, my principal said, I'd like to get another music teacher in the building. And I said, oh, I know music. So I know teaching. But turns out that knowing music and knowing teaching does not necessarily mean knowing teaching music. That's a whole other craft. So I started teaching music without any real background in musical pedagogy,
Right.
but I ended up studying a methodology called Kodai. So I went to school in the summer at NYU for a couple of years, getting certified in that approach to teaching kids. A lot of ear training, a lot of movement games, just a kind of a sequence of learning rhythms and that sort of a thing. So that was a pretty big deal for me.
And I read a study somewhere that kids who become engaged in music education are some astronomical percentage more likely to graduate than those that don't. Do you have a perspective on that?
I would absolutely believe that because I teach them up to fifth grade. But I think there's a really big correlation between academic success, social success, cognitive development for sure. I feel like that's just been kind of confirmed so many times by so many different studies that it's just a huge part of growing the mind is engagement.
Did you ever get involved with the dreaded recorder orchestra?
So I've had a long and tortured relationship with the recorder mic. This year we did it. We did it, and it wasn't just hot cross buns, although it was a lot of that. It's tricky because a recorder is $7 and it's not that hard to play. So in that sense, it's like the perfect thing, you know?
Yeah, but
Yeah, but exactly right. I wear those what do you call those ear ring things that take the decibel level down in your ears like 30 dB, so that otherwise I would just be completely deaf by now.
well, I also was fortunate enough to get involved with playing Baroque recorder. As I'm sure you know, the recorder was, along with the violin, the primary melody instruments during the Baroque period.
Yes.
And I studied the Baroque practice for years. And just to geek out a little bit, one of the things about playing recorder properly is, as I'm sure you know from the recorder orchestra, if you blow harder, you go sharp. You can't play louder by blowing harder only. You have
Yeah,
to have
that's
an
right.
alternate fingering that's a little flat so that it stays in tune. And similarly, for blowing softer, you're going to go flat unless you have another alternate tuning that is a bit sharp.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. The well goes deep. Absolutely.
It definitely does. And I have to say that I enjoyed playing Baroque music a lot. It was, though sometimes we had our own Baroque orchestra moments. You get three recorders playing and they're not in tune. Oh my goodness. What support do you think parents need to provide a kid when they are in a music program and maybe expressing some interest, whether they're being pulled in 17 other directions, both in social media and other
Oh, yeah.
activities, etc.?
Yeah, interesting. My wife is getting her PhD in music theory actually at
Oh,
Yale. She's quite something. But we met playing bluegrass at Sonny's Bar. So she's taught violin for many years. And we have this conversation, and we have a 16-month-old, and we're trying to figure out like what we imagine for him and what we would advocate for him. He is taken with music already. I mean, he just absolutely loves it and gravitates towards it, which brings us lots of joy. The question is, for a kid who's obviously showing an interest in it, I feel like giving them as many opportunities at a young age to experience different avenues of expressing their musicality, I think is a really, really big deal. Would I love him to start playing the piano? Yeah. And will I put him in front of one and let him experience it? Absolutely. Will I mandate it? No, because I feel like you're setting everybody up for failure. That's just my perspective. I don't want to feel like I'm forcing the kid to do anything. But yeah, absolutely. Like, experience, check it out. And then if there's an interest, then the idea of committing to something becomes a whole other conversation. But right now, at this point, I want him to listen to as much as he can, participate as much as he can. We just took him actually to a Mommy and Me sing along in the park just an hour ago. I think at this stage, that's where it's at.
are you familiar with the Music Together program?
I have heard of this.
Actually, there's a lot of science behind it, but it's basically a program for little ones. Like I think it cuts off at age 7. No one that old. And you bring everything up to infants, to 7-year-olds, and it's very participatory. And they shake, rattle eggs, and they bang drums, and they sing songs. And the parent has to participate, or the caregiver. But you don't just send the kid and drop it off. You sit with them, you sing
Yeah.
with them, you rattle eggs as well. And there's all the songs they learn, and it is designed to instill a sense of musicality in the kid. And it really is very effective because I tried both ways. Both of my kids went through Music Together, and I'm going to hit the punchline. They're both extremely musical today.
Ah,
I leaned all over my son, like to practice whatever instrument he was playing.
yes.
And one day he hit a hitch, and I said, a musician does this, that, and the other. And he looked me dead in the eye, and this is like a 10-year-old. He said, Dad, I'm not a musician. I'm a kid.
Oh,
And I just
yeah.
backed up. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
We're not sponsored from them. They're probably completely unaware of us, but it's a
Yeah.
very effective and wonderful program. Another thing I just wanted to mention is we recently spoke to Wilson Savoy. He's a Cajun musician. His father, Mark Savoy, is like the Jimi Hendrix of the Cajun accordion.
Oh, cool.
And his mom, Anne, is also a amazing musician. And I asked him, what about in your home? What was going on? He said, well, there were always instruments around. We were told not to break them, but if I wanted to pick up an accordion or I wanted to pick up a fiddle or whatever, it was just there. And my parents never pressured us, but if we wanted to play, they let us play, and they played with us and that kind of thing. And that sort of let them find their place approach to kid education in the home, I think, is the key.
I'm sympathetic to that. No, I've taught Brooklyn Conservatory of Music. I taught a bluegrass ensemble there for a bunch of years, and actually I'm doing it again part-time this semester. And that program attracts kids who've, a lot of kids who've had Suzuki training, right, which is really formal training. Also involves the parent. The parent needs to participate, but I think it's a much more serious sort of thing. Now, and I've had interesting experiences with kids who've had that much more formalized education. A lot of them have, like, at a young age, they have chops, they can read. A lot of them can play back what they hear. I mean, all these are incredible skills. Now, some of them, when it comes to the idea of, now, no music for you, let's improvise. Now, that's when, of course.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, well, how's that? And that's just a different thing. And I've had different experiences with kids and their flexibility and that sort of thing.
I want to just jump back quickly to Music Together. One of their requirements, obviously, requirements to the extent that they can require anything, is they send you home with, it used to be a CD, now I'm sure it's a link. They really, really, really encourage you to play the music at home, sing the music at home.
Oh,
They start a song every week with "Hello, everybody.
right.
Nice to see
right.
you." Well, they want you like walking around the house humming that, singing it, have it on
And
this.
training, yeah.
And the kid gets very musical. I want to jump a track a little bit. Bluegrass Brooklyn Podcast is the podcast in residence at the 2026 Gray Fox Bluegrass Festival. Part of what that means is we're doing an initiative called Tell Your Gray Fox Story. We're capturing people's experiences of Gray Fox. So, JM, what's your Gray Fox story?
Okay, I got a good one for you. So I went to Gray Fox. I think my first Gray Fox was 2017. I went again in 2018. 2019, I needed a ride up to the festival. And there was this young woman named Nicole who I was sort of friendly with from the Bluegrass Jam at Sonny's, which is a real focal point for the bluegrass community in Brooklyn. So we knew each other, and she played violin and sang. She knew I needed a lift, so she offered to give me a drive up there. And it was, a 3-hour drive. We just started talking, and the time flew, and it was just one of those things where we just kind of connected in every way you can imagine. The time we got to the festival, just hanging out a lot. And by the time we drove home, I was pretty much aware of the fact that I was in love with her. And now, fast forward 3 years, we're getting married, and we're reading our vows to each other. And I'm sobbing, holding my vows. I knew 2019 after the Bluegrass Festival at Gray Fox that I was in love with you. And she starts reading her vows, and she says, I knew at the Gray Fox Bluegrass Festival in 2019 that I was in love with you. So the Gray Fox will always hold an incredibly special place in my heart. And the further good news is that I'm friends with a tremendously wonderful songwriter named Rick Lang, who's a highly decorated IBMA songwriter and a wonderful mentor. And I told him this story, and I said, I feel like there's got to be a song in here. I've got a title for you. It's called The Night I Fell in Love with You. And we sat down and we wrote this song about this whole experience, and that'll be on my next record.
Can we take a listen to that?
Here we go.
Moon is my witness, stars shining too. Is my heart ready for someone new? Minding my business, what could I do? Until the night I fell in love with you. Oh, the night I fell in love with you. We were dancing, stepping on your shoes. By the time the last dance was through, I just knew. The night I fell in love with you. My heart's been busted a time or two. I went and trusted like lovers do. There's no getting over what I've been through. Until the night I fell in love with you. Oh, the night I fell in love with you. We were dancing, stepping on your shoes. By the time the last dance was through, I just knew. The night I fell in love with you.
Wow. Best Gray Fox story yet. Okay, JM, you get it.
Yeah, I went. Touchdown.
That's a touchdown.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. And you're performing there this year. We're looking forward to seeing you and hearing you up there. Are you going to participate in the jams up there as well?
Oh, try and stop me.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll be standing around the same jam circle too. That would be awesome.
Heck yeah, Mike. Heck yeah.
All right. So now let's jump tracks one more time.
Yep.
I'm going to set the context here. I was at a concert the other day, which consisted primarily of 2 guitars and an acoustic bass. And then they were joined eventually by a vocalist and some other players. It was the most awful concert I have attended in a long time. The music ranged from masterful to virtuosic. The sound engineering was so horrific. There was a throbbing bass I could feel in my chest.
Oh, yeah.
There was this sonic soup of undifferentiated sound somewhere in the middle range, so none of the unbelievable guitar playing was audible. And then when the vocalist started singing, there was so much noise under her that you could just barely hear the top of the treble range, which was just an annoying saw.
What a mess.
Yes, it was
A mess.
So
Oh,
let's
yeah.
talk a little bit about sound engineering. First of all, what's your preference when you perform? Do you prefer to plug in direct? Do you want to play acoustic to a mic? Some combination of that?
Yeah. Oh, man. I've thought a bunch about this. Every show that I play of big consequence, that's always the question. In bluegrass, it's like to condenser mic or not to condenser mic. You know, that is the question. I feel like the ideal situation for bluegrass is to do it the way the masters always did it. The Bill Monroe. I mean, playing around one condenser microphone or a condenser microphone with maybe 2 wing mics pointed out in either direction for solos or something like that. Especially for harmony singing, you can't beat the experience of just monitoring yourself just live. So that's the ideal scenario. However, if it goes poorly, for whatever reason, woe's the day, you just rue the day when you chose to do a condenser microphone. So there are a bunch of potential pitfalls, like, loud environments, no good for condensers, right? Outdoors, if it's windy. So for example, at Gray Fox, I'm going to plug in.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the risk. And I'm sure the sound people there are going to be fantastic, top notch, but I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I don't know if the audience is going to be loud. So I'm just doing the lowest risk maneuver.
One of my favorite bands is East Nashgrass.
Yes,
I mean, Matty Denton is on my pantheon of fiddle heroes.
absolutely. Oh yeah, I think they're the best working band out there today, maybe.
You're right. We could go down the list. So I had a chance to speak to them about this topic, and Harry was telling me that one of the things they encounter, and it's no fault of anybody, but a lot of the sound guys in most small, medium-sized venues, they're concrete floors and, not very acoustic walls, and they are used to miking rock and similar music, where
Yes.
the kick drum and the bass should really hit people in the chest, right? And that kind of thing. And you're not going to re-educate a sound person. And if you're going through direct acoustic to mics, you're gonna be defeated.
Yes.
So their new bass player / dobro player,
Jeff Parton, sure, yeah.
yeah, he actually is a very skilled sound engineer too, and he just revamped their sound engineering. They all plug in. They all plug in now, but they have in ear so that they can hear and make adjustments so that everybody is adjusted to the levels that sound good. And then the overall sound engineering is balancing that, and their amplified sound is improved 100%.
So brilliant. Yeah, I mean, right, live sound for a bluegrass ensemble. What a treacherous thing to attempt, especially if it's not in your bailiwick, right?
Yeah.
I remember listening to someone on stage, and the sound engineer was struggling with them as they were performing, and I guess the sound engineer was making adjustments. And the musician on stage said, when you do that on stage, it's trying to perform neurosurgery on a surfboard.
I like that, neurosurgery on a surfboard. Well, we often touch on this topic on the show just because I think critical, just want to get people aware of the fact that they should be sensitive to the impact of sound engineering and venue acoustics and all that stuff with the bands they love to go listen to.
Amen. Yeah.
Let's jump a track again.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about songwriting a little bit.
My favorite.
Yes. So first, approximately how many songs do you think you've written?
Oh, that's such a great question. I can tell you this. I just recorded a record, and I know that for that record, I wrote about 90 songs.
Wow.
So you figure, right, for that one record. Now, I would say maybe over 1,000 probably. But yeah, I mean, my attitude now is write a lot, right? I mean, right before our conversation here, I was writing. I write a ton. So I really try and make it a discipline. And, they all can't be winners, and that's just okay.
So you wrote 90 songs, and what do you run the record? 10 or 12 or something like that?
Well, I ended up, when I went down to Nashville, I was working with some of the best musicians you can name. And I came in expecting to get 10, and we got 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and a cover or two. So we ended up, what else you got kind of stuff, but I had more because I write a ton.
What's the name of the record?
Things That We Can't Change.
And is that on Spotify or whatever?
So the first single's out June 26th. The record I'll drop around IBMA in October. So yeah, we're just starting the release cycle now.
All right. Well, 90 comes down to 16. 16 is a lot, but 90 is a lot more. What filter do you apply to come up with that?
Well, the producer filter. That's one of the most famous filters there is.
Yeah.
I do a lot of co-writing. So I actually, the Things That We Can't Change, I went down to Nashville. I wrote with Mike Richards, great guy from Billy Blue, Adam Pope, and Tim Stafford also has a co-write on that. From Blue Highway is a wonderful songwriter. I knew that one had to be on the record, and my producer, when he heard it, said, yeah, the title track, Things That We Can't Change, certainly. But Ron Pope is the guy who produced my record and also helps me write a bunch. He went through everything. I would send him tranches of songs, maybe 20 or 30 at a time. He'd listen to everything. He would comment. He would make edits for stuff that he likes. We put things in 3 columns, like not going to work, maybe going to work, must-haves. And this took about a year of pre-production. Fine-tooth comb everything, and then we're down to 30,
Okay.
And that what can't we live without sort of thing. So that was a real collaborative process with Ron.
Oh, so the producer process, that's very important.
For Ron and I, when it came to must-haves, we mostly agree. There's a couple that I left on the cutting room floor that I will revisit at some point, but for the most part, we were eye to eye on that, which is the way I wanted it to be.
So let's talk about your process. I've spoken to a lot of songwriters, and some of them are engaged in, I'll call it a manufacturing process. There's an appointment between 2 and 4. We're going to write 3 songs.
Yeah.
We're going to focus on the topics of whatever. And then they've written them and moving on. And others just sort of stare off into space, and suddenly a lightning bolt hits them and they write out a song. And again, sometimes the songs are pieced together a little bit at a time and labored over and tinkered with for years. And sometimes the songs just come out all at once. So what do you find your most productive songwriting process to be?
So I gave a songwriting workshop at Jam Jersey, and I made this little packet. In the front page, I had this quote from a great songwriter named Don Kenny, and it was like a little essay, and the title was something like How to Catch Lightning in a Bottle. And her argument really was, well, build a lightning rod. And when you build a lightning rod, you're much more likely to catch your lightning. How do you build a lightning rod? By building your craft, by different techniques, by building your emotional vulnerability and knowing how to put ideas into forms and things like this. Yeah, I've been hit over the head by songs maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. I just sat down and in 2.5 minutes, there it was. But most for me, it's a question of where does the original idea come from? And that's a tricky thing. Something might strike you. You might get what people call a seed of an idea. And I've got in my phone all kinds of little ideas. I don't know where those things come from. Right. Just observations or something that you read, something that occurs to you. And that might be the very beginning of something, but what do you do with it? How do you grow that? And that's the craft of songwriting. And that's something that you build over years and years. Actually, interesting today, before talking to you, I've been wrangling this song all week. I've sat down for several 2-hour sessions with this song. I just can't get it. I have the title. I have the hook, but I'm bored. But just before we talked, I tried something different. I tried giving it a different musical landscape underneath. And now I'm excited about it again. Because I realized that, maybe it's not the lyrics that are boring me or the hook. It's the setting. I'm not compelled by the furniture. So the ability to give it a different setting, it's just something that you learn over time. It was like, what if this waltz, which it was in a very major key, very kind of a soupy waltz, was like a blues kind of a thing with like a flat 7 gnarly blues sound. And I was like, all of a sudden, my ears wouldn't that be fascinating? Trial and error and forgiving yourself.
So somewhere out there, there's a 10-year-old JM who's thinking about writing a song or feels the need to write a song.
Yeah.
And now, what advice would you give him or her?
Write often. Learn the basic idea that writing and being creative and editing are two different tasks. Right. Right. So when you're sitting down to write and be creative, spill everything out on the page. Don't put on your editing hat. You put the thing away. You come back to it the next day. Then you can look at what you've done. But if you're constantly, this is no good, fixing this, tweaking that, as they said in the movie Ghostbusters, you're crossing the streams, right? You have to allow one process to complete itself before beginning the second one. I think that that's really, really critical. And yeah, I mean, allowing yourself to explore ideas, go down different rabbit holes, build your craft this way, figure out what you like to do. But I feel it's like exercise. It's like building muscles, right? You need to exercise different muscles. I was exercising the waltz muscle, and I try to force this song into a waltz. And the song is not a waltz, but I don't regret going down that rabbit hole with that idea. I had to see it through to the end and listen to it the next day with my editing hat on and go, this is not moving me. What if? What if now I'm putting on my creative hat again? What if it's like this? Now I'm excited again.
Well, in the world of software engineering, which at one point in my life absorbed most of my attention, there's an incredibly useful maxim, which is design in a perfect world. Never mind how many developers you have, never mind what kinds of software is available, never mind any of that. Design what you need. Let it just come out. That part of the process, just let it out. And then now you got to go put on your technical hat and say, that's not feasible. That's going to take too long. Nobody knows how to write in that language, whatever it is.
Right.
But you can't start there because you're never going to get anything done. Let me steer the conversation about songwriting in a potentially controversial direction. I was working with someone who was doing a demo for me, and he basically said, we could do it with AI. And he was almost shaking his head, no. But he was saying, and it will be only this much money, but if you want me to lay down 5 or 6 tracks and sing and provide harmony, it's going to be this much money. And we're not talking about huge sums of money in either case, but he was clearly saying we could do AI, but maybe this is a can of worms, so let's pop it open.
Yeah, do it. Go ahead.
So how do you like a generative AI in music, JM?
Right, Suno, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I had no experience with it. I'd mess with ChatGPT every once in a while. I was like, what if I pop in the lyrics and ask it what it thinks?
Okay.
And that was fascinating. And actually, some of the feedback was like, this is a little trite and this is a little, and then it would give me suggestions for changing. And I was like, I'm not going to even read this because then I feel like we're already like kind of like playing toesies with a line that I don't like. So I've stopped doing that. But when it comes to generative music software or generative AI like Suno, so my first encounter with this, I was working with a really wonderful and decorated songwriter and just emailing ideas back and forth. And, I had a chorus, send the chorus, and he sent back like a bunch of lyrics that looked really fantastic and a little bit of a work tape, which is just like an iPhone voice recording demo. And I thought, this is really cool. And he said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and demo this. And I was very excited because I know that once you demo something, that means it's moving in the direction of, we're going to try and get a song cut here. I was like, yeah. And he sends me something back in an hour. And I thought,
boy.
And here's the thing, it sounded great to me and I loved the song even more. I just thought, this is fantastic. And then we ended up doing the process again with another song. And I wrote back and she said, wow, I love, and he said, I'm using Suno, right? I was like,
Oh no, now you ruined it for me.
And I didn't know what to make of it. And I still don't know what to make of those, so I got 2 songs here. Now, as far as I know, the computer AI didn't generate any lyrics, didn't generate the chords, didn't generate the melody. Although when you listen to the singer, there are some turns of phrase that perhaps it suggests.
Yeah.
But the creative content seemed to be coming from the human being, right? But then you're putting it through this thing, and now you can hear me hitting a roadblock because I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do with those songs.
Yeah.
We had an interesting conversation. He called me and said, this is my process now. This is what I do. And he said, not only is this what I do, this is what almost all of the industry does now. This is pretty much, if you want your song to get cut, most of the time, this is what we do. And then he said, however, there are some people that if you send them an AI demo, they will absolutely not cut it just based on principle.
Yeah.
So we're in an interesting moment here. How do I feel about it? I'm still trying to figure this out. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I'm uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to proceed, because it's like, if you want to participate in the culture of getting your songs recorded by other artists, it seems like this is a must. You must do this. This is a necessary and sufficient condition for getting your songs cut.
Getting the first cut of demo out there to people, they're using AI is with the expectation or preferred.
Yes, that's right. And who's not getting paid now? Or of course, all these demo musicians are not getting paid. Right. But on the other hand, like you said, from your experience, now the songwriter, instead of paying $600 for every time he wants to demo a song, can just, So there's a lot of economic question marks around this one, Mike. It's really tricky.
I know that generally speaking, the musicians from around the jam circle who I know and converse with in chat rooms and at music sessions have a absolutely negative reaction to it, because it's like, well, you're taking work away from people, you're squelching creativity, etc.
Yes.
On the other hand, we're talking about an industry, and if the industry requires, for the sake of efficiency and economy, that this tool get used, it's almost like saying when, who was it? I think it was Henry Ford did his efficiency study and said short-handled shovels with little capacity are better because they could shovel faster and they shovel a lot more than with long-handled, very big capacity shovels because they get tired and slow down. And when someone hands you a short-handled shovel and you say, no, I'm not going to use that.
Based on principle,
Because, the long-handled shovel my father and grandfather used.
Yeah, that's right. Are we going to draw a line in the sand and say no further? Another songwriter I talked to said you have to make a decision on a case-by-case basis. And for him, his rubric for this was, is it changing the song? If AI is participating in the creative process, that for him was the bridge too far. That it's just demonstrating your song, if it's demonstrating your idea faithfully, then he was okay with that. He had a problem once he felt like the demo was getting away from the original intention of the human.
Interesting. Well, I think we've got to leave this to the listeners. We provide our email at the end of every episode and the start of every episode. So if people have an opinion about this AI topic, we definitely want to hear about it. I think we're going to have to spend some more time talking about this. Before we conclude, I wanted to ask if you have any touring. I know you're going up to Gray Fox, but do you tour?
I'm an elementary school music teacher, so that's a pretty full-time gig. I'm a father of a young little fellow, and my wife is finishing her dissertation. So touring is tricky, but it's festival season, right? So we'll do Gray Fox. I'll do Porch Stomp, which is a wonderful festival in Governor's Island. Of course, we wouldn't miss that. I'll be at Podunk, which is another wonderful festival in Connecticut. I'm heading down to Pensacola to do something called Radio Live, a cool radio broadcast from a museum. Yeah, and I'll be doing some local stuff. And looking forward to in the fall and into the spring of next year doing a little bit more expansive stuff around the Northeast. But putting together a serious tour schedule was sort of an unrealistic thing for someone with my background.
Yeah, well, that sounds like you're dedicating a lot of time, that the amount of time you're able to dedicate. Certainly we'll be at Porch Stomp. Bluegrass Brooklyn has a stage at Porch Stomp. And also this year, Swamp Meets Stomp, Swamp in the City, which is our local Cajun Zydeco festival, which is incredible, is putting up a stage where we'll be performing, actually.
Oh, my God, not to be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of great music. All right, JM, thank you so much for your time. And I can honestly say, I hope to see you around the Jam Circle soon.
Absolutely, Mike. Wouldn't miss it.
That was a great interview. Really enjoyed it. Very expansive interview, covered a lot of topics. The one that stood out to me was the conversation about AI. And it reminds me of a time when I was growing up in the Pennsylvania Turnpike. They had people who would give out tickets, and then they put in a machine that would spit out the ticket, and people didn't like it because it took a job away from a person.
Yeah.
And yet my father said, that's a tool.
Yeah.
You don't now look at it like it's a tool. It gets you through faster. But you always wanted to have the person in the toll booth so you could ask directions or whatever. Times have changed. But it is interesting to see how it can make things more efficient for people while at the same time, absolutely, I don't want AI to replace live music.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that we really couldn't come to conclusion in the discussion. It was just still an open question. Well, I'll also say definitely one of the best Gray Fox stories I've heard so far. I hope that folks will take advantage of the opportunity to tell us some more of them. It's great to hear them. It's a lot of fun. Check the link in the program notes to schedule your time, or drop us an email if you'd like to schedule if you're not going to be up there.
Oh, and one other thing, I was really happy that he mentioned Jam Jersey. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, just please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, Brooklyn spelled BKLYN. Like, subscribe to, and follow the podcast, and tell your friends how much you love it. Drop us a line, mike@bluegrassbrooklyn.com. We promise we'll respond. And if you're looking for jams in Uptown Manhattan, Bronx, Riverdale, New Jersey, and across the world, go have a look at bluegrassjamsnearme.com. Okay, Liz, that's it.
Thanks so much.
And we look forward to seeing you around the jam circle.
Walking down a gravel road, autumn time, wind a blowing, shades of yellow, red and gold dancing through my mind.